Welcome back to the Lords of Lore podcast. I'm Matt.
I'm Luca.
I'm Will.
And this is the podcast for all things fantasy and sci-fi nerddom. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, make sure you leave us a review, and patronize the show in any way you can. Today, as you've probably seen, if you clicked on this podcast episode or this video, we are talking about Skyrim, the impact of Skyrim, the things we love about Skyrim, all things Skyrim, which is very much in Will's area of expertise or obsession. And I guess I can mention we have Will back on the main show. So yay. Well, we missed you, man. If you didn't catch it, the last 2 weeks we have been without our wondrous wise men. So you can check those episodes out with Rhubarb, where we talked about fantasy versus fiction. And Cam, we did a whole Star Wars Visions review. So check those out. Also, last Friday, you would have seen Cam again on an episode of Lords of Lore Adventures, where we played D&D. So yeah, we're on our fourth episode of that, nearing the end of that tale. So you can catch up now, so you can be with us for the finale that'll come out in a few weeks here. You can catch an episode of Unabashed with myself and Brittany from the Lonely Cast this Friday. That was a fun conversation. Check that out. And next Friday, Luca and I are doing a review for Leigh Bardugo's Ninth House. So, if you're reading along with us, or that piques your fancy from what we've mentioned of it, make sure you're checking that out and tuning into that conversation. Without any further ado, we'll get into our regular scheduled segments here, beginning always with Luca's Litany of Literature, wherein Luca has a podcast within the podcast and talks a little bit what's going on in his life. What's going on, man?
Well, obviously I've been reading Ninth House. Won't dive into that. We will be ruminating on it shortly. Nice. Actually, I want to start with a reference back to our Visions. Oh, wait, Will, have you seen Star Wars Visions?
Probably no.
Probably not.
Trailers, yes.
Yeah, we talked about it on here.
So we'll keep it spoiler free for Will's sake. I rewatched it twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my favorite episode has changed from the duel to the Village Bride.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So I initially thought, maybe you said your favorite was the duel. You gave it a 9.5 and you gave La Pinocho a 9, but you said you would prefer La Pinocho be the series that get. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But have either of those? So your favorite has now changed.
I think so. Yeah.
Would you like to see a continuation of the Village Bride or still La Pinocho?
More so the Village Bride. I'm more curious about the Jedi character of the Village Bride than I am to see the continuation of La Pinocho's relationship.
Wow.
I think you were 100% right when you said like this is Star Wars. Like it really is. Like it also had the best soundtrack. I think like listening to them again. I loved the duel. Like when the Sith came out, like that music. I don't know if you remember it. Fantastic. But I think like the feeling of the episode and the way they did world building and stuff, like it did so much with so little. And like set up these characters and like pose so many questions, like who's her master? What's the relationship to this world? Like, why is she wearing the mask? What does the cutting the braid off mean? Like all these things. And I think it just had a lot going for it in a very short time. And I'd love to see a continuation of that. So yeah, I think the Village Bride has become my favorite episode of Star Wars Vision, followed closely by the duel. Not like, it's so much better, but I think I would be completely okay with never seeing anything else about the Ronin character, because like I think the mystery it sets up is like interesting enough that it's like sort of holds its own ground, like the episode itself. Whereas the Village Bride, I'd love to see more about that world and about that Jedi character, and like the guy she traveled with stayed on that planet after she left, or what looked like she left, and just like it just made me want more of the story.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about, or the reason I'm hesitant for stories like The Village Bride that take place sort of in that timeline of like the Padawans who have lost their masters, the Order 66, is that in a lot of ways this can't go well, because by the time we get to 4, 5, 6, we know that there's not very many of them left. And now with the new canon, that's sort of changed. They've sort of said, well, they're not the chosen ones, so they couldn't have saved the day, but they were still around. And I don't really have a problem with that, but it does make it tougher for those stories to become a little bit more believable. But I absolutely do agree that The Village Bride is a super dope episode, and it does do a lot. For me, that sort of using the Force as a magic system and not just MacGuffin, not an actual MacGuffin, but you know what I mean? Like just plot armor, basically, where I feel like in that episode, when the Force has a different name and we see its different properties or effects that it can have, or, powers or characteristics, to me, that opens up the world to be like, there's a lot of people in this galaxy. They don't all speak the same language. They don't all have the same relationship to the Jedi or to the Force. And it's not as simple as the sort of the binary of Jedi and Sith. There's a lot of different areas we can explore with that magic system. So for that alone, I don't think any episode of Visions or Star Wars does as much to, sort of bust that shit wide open. Yeah.
Exactly. And I loved the yellow lightsaber. Super cool. The shape of the blade, awesome. Like, it just great episode.
And the rocket boots.
Awesome. So just so cool.
Because why not?
Exactly. Like, it's just so fun. So yeah, Village Bride, new favorite episode. I have also restarted Malazan. I dove back into book 8 after what was it, like 2-month hiatus, I think now, or maybe longer. It's been a long time. But I was driving. I was like, I need to listen to something. I didn't want to listen to music. And I was like, I'm diving back into Malazan.
Wow.
No regrets. It's been good. I've been enjoying book 8. Oh, have you guys seen Squid Game?
No.
And it's not related to sci-fi fantasy, but no, neither of you? Okay, well then we won't talk about it. It's pretty good.
It's like dystopian. I guess that could be a little bit sci-fi.
It is a bit, but like there's no sci-fi elements really.
Oh, okay.
Good show.
Yeah, I won't get into it on this podcast because it's a bit cynical and weird of me, but I really hate when Netflix tries to like push a show via influencers and social media. Like it feels very like it's not subtle, I guess, where it's like this meme account that specifically does content for like this subset of fans now making Squid Game content. It's like, okay. Like,
well, you see, I'm not on Instagram or Twitter ever, so I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, which is fair. Like, it's just it's definitely a personal thing I have. Wait, it's not that I think the show is bad or anything. It's just that like I've seen so much of the show already, and a lot of spoilers have been like ruined.
Okay.
So for me, watching the show would have to like recontextualize everything I know about it already, and that's a little bit more of that takes a little bit more mental energy for me than to, go into a show like
fresh.
I'll
just say this about it. Like the twists and reveals, they're not mind blowing. Honestly, I don't remember one that I saw that I was like, okay, I didn't see this coming. Like most of them, I guess, just based on like anime tropes and like how they set it up. And but it's really well written. Like the script is really tight. Every episode has a point. Like it's well done. It's well filmed. The characters are good. The character work is good. The actors are good. Like it makes you care about them, makes you sad when something happens to them. Good show. I would recommend it. Anything else for the litany today?
I got a question for you though before you move on.
Go ahead.
Getting back into Malazan, were you instantly like, why did I put this down? Or were you like, did it take a little while before you were like, here's the series I love again?
Honestly, I feel weird about Malazan just because like after reading The Bone Shard Daughter and rereading Sword of Kaigen.
Oh, okay. Right.
Like, or parts of it, not all of it, but like after diving back into those for our ruminations on them, like Malazan is, first of all, it's very grimdark. Very much a heavy read. And it's also written in a more literary way than, like, the author is a very good writer beyond just fantasy. So like a lot of it is like very
chunkier.
It is chunkier, and like the I don't want to say exposition, but like the way he describes scenes is like a lot more eloquent and like longer sentences and like metaphorical rather than direct, like in the Sword of Kaigen, where it's like this happens, this happens, this happens.
Yeah.
You can live through the characters, where in Malazan it's very much a bird's eye view, like you're watching the story take place. So it's like it takes a bit to get into, and it's honestly like a heavy subject matter. Like it's not, there's moments that are great, but it's like for the most part it's like a very it takes energy to get through.
Yeah.
Which is why I put it down in the first place. I still love it. I still call it one of the greatest, like maybe the best world building I've ever seen in anything. Wow. Like just like masterfully done. Such an interesting world, and like everything's so well done. But it is a heavy read. And obviously, and you mentioned when we were talking about word count for the Wheel of Time, like Malazan is getting there. So
yeah,
it's a chonker.
Yeah, no, I actually so as you know, I've been buying a lot of physical books just as a thing to do. I just recently I have these sort of obsessions, and you know, my girlfriend and I will just go to chapters like once a week and pick up something, if not a few things. So I have a problem. But I find for myself now, I'm realizing the sort of books I will prefer to audiobook and the ones I'd like to read. Mm-hmm. And the ones I'd prefer to read like physically are the ones that are less chonky that way, because it's such like I've felt myself like nodding off a few times reading books and being like, oh, okay, I gotta make it through this fucking chapter. But then, like, you know, picking it back up and being like, I don't know what happened. I got to reread those last few pages. Yeah. But when I feel like the dialogue is a little bit more modern and a little bit simplified, for me, those are like, I just like zoom through them. The Witch's Heart was like, it doesn't follow like a chapter sort of base. It more takes like the form. I guess it sort of alludes to like the Poetic Edda and the Prose Edda, but it's very much like, there's 3 acts type of thing, or 3 parts, I should say. And every sort of change in the story just flows into the other. So at times it did feel like, oh my gosh, when is my next break where I could put it down for a second? But it flowed so smoothly that I never really felt like it was dragging on type of thing. Yeah. Whereas like I'm finding that sort of rigid, like I don't know how I would have done reading The Bone Shard Daughter physically, because it was like, I don't know, switching perspectives and stuff like that. Just as immediately I'm like, okay, I'll take a break here. So it would have taken me a lot longer to get through. Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting you say that, because I almost find the opposite. Like I'd rather listen to a book that's like quicker. Oh, wow. That's not true. Well, for example, The Rage of Dragons, like you've recommended that audiobook to me, and I just haven't had the free credit for a while, and I will get it. But like, yeah. Like for me, I read that book in, I think, like 8 days. Like it was just like, oh wow, it just flew by. Like it was just so quick, so fast paced, and I was just like drawn into it. I just read like every time I opened, I'd read like 4 or 5 chapters. Whereas like I do struggle. Like I've been reading Oathbringer, like book 3 of the Stormlight Archives for like
3 years,
for like literally a whole year now. I think, I swear. But it's interesting because I finished The Way of Kings in less than a month.
Okay.
And it's just as chonky, like it's huge.
Yeah.
But like I've been struggling. Like I've had the 4th Stormlight Archive book for nearly a year now. Yeah. I've not even finished. I'm not even halfway through Oathbringer. It's just like, so I don't even know what I'm talking about. But I would not want to listen to it. It's like, I think on Audible, it's like a 57-hour book or something. Like The Way of Kings is like,
whoa, dude, what the fuck?
Yeah,
that's like, wild.
I'm pretty sure The Way of Kings was the longest book on Audible for a while.
A lot of what goes into me deciding if I'm going to read it physically or not is I look at the runtime on Audible, and if it's like 24 hours, I'm like, yeah, I'm not reading this.
Okay, I was going overboard. The Way of Kings was 45 hours and 30 minutes.
That's still a lot. That's so much.
And but every Malazan book is around 40 hours.
And you've listened to all of those?
Yeah, I listened to 7 so far. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything like 20 hours plus, I'm sort of like, how invested am I? because like even the Sword of Kaigen was like 24 hours, and that took me a while just to find the time where, like, because you were doing a lot of driving, right? So for you, it might be easier to find those long stretches where you can hammer a bit of it out.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, 15, 30 minutes here or there, or I'm sitting down to paint. Those are when I actually get to listen, or if I'm at work or something. So yeah, it's tougher for me to get like a chonky Audible book. And like, I don't know.
It's funny because like the first few books I bought on Audible were all around 30 hours. And then like the first one I got, like Ubik, which is a sci-fi book, like it's like 8 hours, like just under 8 hours. And I'm like, is this even worth the credit? Like
I have that same thing now too. If I see a book and it's like 8, 7, like, under 10 hours, I'm like, man, should I just buy it and read it? Like, or should I then spend my, credit on something? It's like the more bang for your buck, right?
Yeah.
But no, there's books that I have on Audible that are 3 hours long before I really started diving into audiobooks. And I'm like, would I buy those again? And I got hooked to the first book of the series, and now there's like 2 and 3 out. And I'm like, I can't justify the credit, man. Like,
it's like for one credit, I can get The Way of Kings for 45 hours.
Yeah.
Or like a 7-hour book. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough that way.
Anyway, that will do it for this entry into the litany. On to
another installment of Matt's meandrous mumblings. There we go. Today, I actually want to talk about the origins of this podcast because it sort of ties into the main topic of Skyrim. And I'll get to that in a second. But we're throwing it all the way back. I'll try to speed through this. Luca and I, we met in high school, I think in the computer science class, to which robotics. Robotics. We sort of just fucked around, made robots fight each other and stuff like that, and tried to play, I think it was like Medal of Honor or something. So that's how you and I met. And then, had mutual friends throughout high school, and really started hanging out probably after high school. And, there was times we would just go to your place and watch movies with a group of friends. And then eventually those movies turned into, let's watch Game of Thrones. And actually the first time I ever watched Game of Thrones, I was with you. You showed me the first episode.
Okay.
So that's a fun fact. And then I got hooked, and then, got the people I was around at that time into it, and then blah, blah, blah. Fast forward 5 or 6 years, I think. I met Will for the first time. Again, through some mutual friends. And I had just finished watching or rewatching the Lord of the Rings films, I think, or maybe I just finished the audiobook, and I was feeling very sympathetic towards Boromir. And I thought of bringing it up while we were at this shisha bar. So did that. And then Will, who I hadn't met prior, was like, what are you even talking about? And he's correcting me on things that I didn't think I had to say because we're at a table of people who are like casual fans. And he was like, well, actually, and I was like, I know. And I was like, this guy gets it. And I would see Will, once a month maybe, and nerdy things would come up until one day Will hit me up and was like, yo, let's meet up for some lore talk. And so we ended up going for shisha together. I think us and another buddy just talked lore. That happened a couple times before I actually introduced the two of you, because Luca, at the time, you and I were playing Dungeons and Dragons. So Will joined the campaign you were running as Grunor, the pervy cleric. And that's how you guys met. But, at these D&D sessions, whether it was your game, that I played in on Sundays, we did yours, and on Wednesdays it was my game with a different group of people, but some overlap, but which Will was not a part of. You would recommend books like The Rage of Dragons, and then, when we'd get to the table for whoever's game was next, it would be like we'd start talking about the book, but then like everybody else would show up, so it'd be like, I don't want to waste D&D time by talking about the book. We never really had a good chance to like. We didn't have the lore talks Will and I had. So at some point in the pandemic, it was like, man, we got to talk, because we would text and send fucking paragraphs of like how cool this book is, or like you should get on this one. And then it was like, yo, we should just talk about this. And And then Will would call me at points in the pandemic, the very early pandemic, and just be like, yo, I was thinking about something. Timer septum kind of fucked up. that's how the conversation would start. So then I was like, these are both, the interactions I was having with Luca, the ones I was having with Will, they were both similar enough that I was like, we should all do this in one place. And so, yeah, I was like, let's do a podcast. And eventually we got together and recorded 4 episodes that have never seen the light of day. And then on our 5th episode, I think, or maybe it was our 4th episode, we finally released. And that was the humanoid sentient creature. So, and then Luca and I finally got to start doing book reviews. But the part of this that relates to Skyrim, before Will and I started going on our lore dates, before I was like, this guy really gets it. Because at a certain point, you were just the guy I would see out at these, social events who'd be like, actually, Boromir was wrong or whatever. I'm painting you in such a bad light. But I was actually, in the city you were staying in at the time with another mutual friend. And we went over to your place and you were actually playing Skyrim. And you're, as I said before, you're a Skyrim aficionado. So one of the crowning achievements of my life thus far was telling you about a Skyrim location that you didn't already know about. And I was like, oh, you haven't heard of Keg Renzel? And you were like, no, if I don't know it, it doesn't exist. No, I'm just kidding. But then you went through, and this is actually, sorry, I'm bouncing around a lot. This is why I invited Will to play D&D with us. Is because I watched him play through Skyrim, and it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen. So he goes, and Keg Renzel has this like drop where you fall like thousands of feet into this cavern. And he would like pause the game and go, and you fell into like this lake bed. And he was like, I'm going to activate water breathing. Cast water breathing on himself and like found a ledge and was like, I should ingest some mana potion. It was like the funniest like step-by-step guide to how to play Skyrim. It was just hilarious. Me and my buddy were laughing. And I was like, this guy would make a good D&D player. And then I looked down and saw you had D&D books. And I was like, oh, perfect. So next time you were in town, you came and played. Yeah, that's basically how Skyrim relates to the formation of this podcast. And how it also relates, Luca, your pitch to me on why I should watch Game of Thrones was, have you played Skyrim? And I was like, yeah, I love Skyrim. You're like, imagine if that was a TV show. And I was like, I'm in. Your pitches to me are always really concise, and I'm always like, oh, Game of Thrones and dragons, cool. So yeah, that's how this podcast came. Do you guys have any thoughts? Did I mess up any of that story?
Just to add context, so when you and our mutual friend came over to my place to watch me cast water breathing, so the building that I moved into, I was actually like one of the first residents because it like just opened up, and so like a lot of like these like telecommunications company didn't have like keys and stuff cut for this apartment building, so like I had actually scheduled like a guy to set up my Wi-Fi and stuff, but because like he didn't have access and it was on the weekend, I had to wait like 3 weeks for like the next appointment. So this was like several days prior to you guys like showing up at my place. So I had like no Wi-Fi for like weeks, and like all the games that were installed on my PS4 were like online games, ones, like multiplayer and stuff. So like all I had was like Skyrim. So like that's like what I would like rip for like, yeah, pretty much like every night and stuff like that after class and stuff. And it was actually kind of a miserable time because like I'd have to do homework like at the Starbucks like a few blocks away.
Oh, no.
So yeah, but no, actually I tried like uploading all my save data to like my PlayStation like cloud accounts, but it had failed. And for some reason, like it won't stop trying to upload every time it's connected to the internet. So like I've had this notification on since 2018 where it's like, this has failed to like save the Skyrim file. And it pops up every time I turn on my PlayStation. and like I don't know like how or like how to get around it or like how to delete it and stuff like that. So yeah, I've been like that save file from like me casting water breathing is like there, like pops up like every time I turn it on.
Oh man,
So,
still stuck in keg red zone.
yo, for real. And like I don't want to delete it because that has a lot of my files and stuff like that on that save thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, Skyrim. I have a lot of mixed
Yeah.
feelings about it.
Well, yeah, let's jump over to your wondrous wisdom here.
I definitely think it's probably like the best. Like I would say like the greatest game released in the 2010s, but also like to sum up like my feelings for Skyrim, I would have to say fuck Skyrim. Cause like
Wow.
like I like it, but I also fucking hate it as much. Like I'll play it, but like I absolutely hate playing it. Um so like to start off, like I got it like it has like Skyrim has like one of my favorite like moments or like memories of my lifetime is like playing it because like I got it for Christmas like a month after it came out.
Yeah,
And,
same.
like I'll never ever forget like coming out of the cave, like out of Helgen and like looking at the dragon zip by. I mean, it's super dated now, so it's kind of like weird to look at now. But like I remember like being in like absolute like shock compared to like 'cause, like I used to play the shit out of Oblivion, which is my background. You see how terrible the graphics are and how dated it is. But like I put like hundreds of hours, like pretty much like all of like junior high, I played Oblivion. So I remember like yeah, like Skyrim coming out was like a massive thing for me. And then I remember like my main character that I had saved because like I bought like I have like every copy of it for like every system except for the Nintendo
But you hate
Switch.
it.
Yeah, I fucking hate it. Uh, I hate that I have all the copies for it too, like collector's editions and stuff. But
No way.
yeah, I have like 6 of those Skyrim maps that it comes with. But like you can tell like which like edition it came with too, just by like the material used to make the map.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nerd.
Yeah, for real. Like I remember like my like PlayStation, like my main first character that I made for Skyrim was like I broke my PlayStation because like how like powerful like he was because I just like turned him into like a god. Like I would like throw like a chain lightning spell and it would just like hit a dragon and like my PlayStation would crash because like the amount of damage it would do is just absurd. Like
Uncalculable.
yeah, like I would just like I picked up like the gloves of the pugilist, which is like a unique like
Yeah.
unarmed item weapon, and I would just like punch things and they would just explode and like the screen would just like cut out. So, like that's how like overpowered my character was. But and like that's without like mods and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that it started like Skyrim became like a chore for me. Like on a night, like there would be like times where I'd just be like, I have to get it out of my system. So like the entire night I would just like play Skyrim, but it would be like a job. Like I wouldn't have fun doing it, but I had like a system of how I would do things and like where to go. And like I like have like certain unique items like memorized. Like for example, there's like an Imperial helmet that's like there's only 2 helmets that have it's like kind of looks like the Spartan Greek helmet, but
Yeah, the General Tullius's helmet.
no, because there's only 2 of them that actually have like hair instead of like a piece of metal.
Okay.
So like I have like the 2 locations like burned into my skull. The main
Where
one
are
being
they?
in Riften, in the
Oh.
southwest, or yeah, it's just like in this weird shrine that you can find that's not marked on maps or anything. Yeah, it's which is coincidentally right beside. I'm not sure if you know, but like on the in the opening when the dragon attacks, there's like the kids and like Hadvar the Nord Imperial soldiers like, Broly, go with this your grandfather or whatever, and he like gets out of the way. That's actually like right beside the house. So if you go up to and talk to them, it's like a unique conversation. They're like, I remember you. How's things going since the dragon ruined our lives and killed my dad?
Oh man.
Yeah, no, I fucking hate Skyrim because like as much as like I like it, there's like so much shit that pisses me off about it. Specifically, like I would say compared to like Morrowind and Oblivion, it's like completely dumbed down, which like
Wow.
upsets me because like I think around like 2014 and 15 I got like really into like Elder Scrolls lore, but it was like secretive, and like there's definitely some short stories and fiction and stuff like that I may or may not have written, which will never see the light of day.
Wow. Holy, this is breaking news. I didn't even know this.
Yeah, there's some fan fiction files that like I can't force myself to delete, but I also will never show to anyone. But
Oh, come on. Come
that's
on.
how,
We got to
like,
do it for the pod, man.
like that's how like deep
Gotta
it is.
ruminate on it.
Yeah.
No, it's like really bad. It's just like weird madness writings that I would write at like 3 o'clock in the morning and stuff.
I hate this fucking game.
Yeah. And like, yeah, like I said, like I hate it because a lot of like the RPG elements that were made up in Morrowind and Oblivion were like removed for the sake of gameplay, which I'm fairly certain is just to like attract like a greater player base. Because like I would say like Skyrim is pretty easy to get to like figure out like how to play and stuff, and like it's just like you hit like the pot like your menu button is just like it's like it is super accessible, which is a lot of fun, and there's all the mods and stuff. But like Oblivion and Morrowind just had like way better class systems. I would say like way more restrictive. Like for example, like when you start as like a Nord in Skyrim or like any character, it's all just more or less the same base stats. But like I mean, like in terms of like health, stamina, and magicka, it's all set to 100. But in Oblivion, it's just like if you pick a Nord, like you have shit like magic. Like that's
okay.
Yeah, it's like too bad. Like you can cast a healing spell, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, so like the art, like in terms of like RPG elements, it's like stricter for Oblivion, which like I kind of like because they actually have like outlined classes, and instead of having like multi classes, it's just like specific ones. So for example, like a spell sword or stuff like that. Because like I find whenever I make like a character in Skyrim, after like a few hours, they just like turn into like a god, like after level 30. So,
A few hours, he says.
yeah. Yeah, and the thing I hate about Skyrim is well, like my like rant the other day, because like I installed it and I wanted to play it.
Wait. So, this is another time Will called me to rant about something not lore based this time though, but so I just want to set the scene. I'm like feeding my dogs. You call, or no, maybe I was just coming downstairs, and you call me, and yeah, you were like, I've restarted the Skyrim game like 10 times in the last 3 days.
Yeah.
And one thing about Skyrim, without mods, that opening cutscene and tutorial is unskippable. So you've sat through you're finally awake
Yeah.
10 times in the last week now, or has this continued since we last spoke?
No, I finally settled with the character, but I wasn't happy about it. Because like Oblivion, Morrowind, I always played Breton, which is kind of like an offshoot of humans, man-made,
half elves, right?
Kind of, but not really.
Okay.
Because like, well, like for like Elder Scrolls, there's not really like half creatures, because like the way it works is just whoever like whatever like race your mother belongs to is like what the offspring would be. So for example, if there's like a male human and like a female orc, and they have like a kid together, it will be automatically an orc child.
Okay.
Like without question. But for some reason, like in the lore, they like Bretons were created, which are just humans that have elven ancestry as well. But just like over time, they just basically became humans that have better magic resistance. So like I usually play Bretons just because I like the magic resistance, and like they have like a little bit more affinity to like certain spells, specifically like defensive ones, because like nobody trains restoration. It's just fucking lame. So I want to throw fireballs and shit. I don't want to like turn undead. Like, so, like why would I turn as a skeleton when I could just like beat it to death with a hammer? So yeah, I usually just choose Breton because
You were upset there was less role play, right?
Yeah,
That's how that. Okay, gotcha.
yeah. Anyway, so like the one thing that's been bothering me with a lot of video games is like proportion. And like I get the like proportion of like just like characters and like NPCs and stuff like that. And like I get obviously there's game mechanic, like just system mechanics and stuff like that. Like it's just a lot of times like developments, it's not feasible to do a lot of stuff, but it still pisses me off regardless.
Yeah, are you talking more like aesthetic? Like if we compare something like World of Warcraft to Skyrim, how the
Yeah,
proportions are like sort of not at
fucking
all
whack.
the same.
Yeah, and like I never really noticed it until Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Just because the proportions and just the camera angles are just fucking whack.
Are you talking about the proportion of like the character bodies?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like in like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, like canon wise, like well the character I believe is the female, but you could like have the option to switch in between the two. So like I usually just play male, like the male Eivor for AC Valhalla, like the main character. And like canon wise, I think he's like 6 foot or 6'1" or something like that, like size wise. And like all the NPCs in dialogue are like refer to him as like this Hulk of like a human. Like not just in terms of like height, but also just like stature. But like in cutscenes and shit, he's like not that big compared to like the other NPCs, which are also stated to be like of the same size, which like just like upsets me because like and like I'm pretty sure it's just because of like a gameplay mechanics thing. But like the other characters, like they'll just have like these like larger Hulk class characters for some reason, but they and like the phrase I used was like rescue heroes is what they look like. It's like they just
obscure.
like look bigger, but they have like shorter necks and just like massive like arms and like hands and like feet and shit. It just like looks like weird as fuck compared to like your other character. And yeah, so like that's I found that to be like really prevalent in Assassin's Creed Valhalla because like I remember like playing it and I was like something like feels like off, especially like in like combat scenes and stuff like that. Like how come like my character has like stubby arms, like they're not long at all, and like is he just like constantly hunched over, like what the fuck? And then and like it bugged me enough to like actually search it up to see if like other people were like is something off. And like I noticed like on a few forums people were like what the fuck. And then Skyrim's kind of the same. So like all of the humans or like Imperials and Bretons are like stated to be like pretty much of the same height, but then like the Nords are like stated to be basically like an inch taller or something like that. Like so you'd have like 6 foot to like compared to like 6'1", but like the Nords are like massive. When it's just like I don't know, like it looks fucking whack. And so like what I was saying that like I like made different characters. So like I made the exact same character, but like Imperial, Breton, and Nord.
Okay.
Like same hair, same skin tone, same like scars and shit, like same eye distance, like everything. Like I like when I'd be like in the character creation mode, like I would like take pictures of like all the sliders, so like I knew exactly. And so like I'd like
Do you still have those pictures?
I might
Do you have the pictures of the final results?
I know
if so, I'll edit them in later, just if you do, but if not, it's no problem.
I think I took pictures of so like what I did was to like measure them is like I would run through the Helgen scene, get through the intro, I'd zip over to was it Riverdale or what the fuck it's called?
River Run.
Yeah, River Run. Sorry. And then so like I'd rip over there. And,
yeah,
it's River Run. So they have like in the middle, like on the main street, there's a cart. So I'd run over there and I would crouch behind the cart. I would take a picture to see what it would look like. And then I like load my other character, put on the exact same clothing, same weapons, everything, and I run over and I crouch behind this cart to like compare them.
Yeah.
And for some reason, like the Nord is like fucking massive. Like he can't like it looks goofy, like hiding behind those carts. And like I kind of want to play Nord because I've never really played Nords.
That's the canon Dovahkiin, right?
Yeah, and like that's kind of what I decided to go with. I was because like hopefully we'll see Elder Scrolls 6 sometimes before I die. And then so I was kind of like, yeah, like I've never actually done like a canon Dragonborn. So because I always do like vampires or like supreme mages or like absolute like god figures and stuff. So then yeah, anyway, so like I made like 3 different characters. I also made an orc character just to compare. So like I'd have like all these like 4 save files where like my character's wearing the exact same stuff, wearing the same weapons, crouching behind this cart. And it's just fucking whack. Because like all the sizes vary and it just like pisses me off too. Like I even played
what did you the same?
Yeah, what did you want?
I just
wanted
wanted to be like
a Nord that was Breton height?
Kind of, but like the Nord, like in the lore, Nords are like huge.
Yeah.
And then, which is kind of strange because like usually like in colder climates, humans just don't really grow that tall.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I took bioanthropology. So because the idea is so like the blood doesn't have that far to travel.
Oh,
yeah. It's a human evolution. And then, anyways,
spiritual miracle.
yeah. So I just like wanted like a character just to be like of like average height, just average build, like just no like I don't want to say normal, but normal.
So why didn't you just make the Nord slider smaller?
Well, like I tried that. Well, you can only affect weight, so which is what I did.
You can't do height.
No.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So like I like made like my Nord is definitely like nowhere near as like this like muscular creature, but he's still like giant. Like I'm fairly certain I saw the pictures, but like yeah, he's like crouching behind like this cart, and like the cart doesn't even hide him. Like looks like the Hulk's trying to hide behind like a fire hydrant, and like. But then like when you put like the Imperial behind it, it's just like you can't even see them. It's just like what the fuck? Like even though they're like stature wise, like they're supposed to be similar. So I don't know, it bugged me. Anyways, long story short, I spent like 3 days trying to make a character.
So what did you end up with?
A Nord. Yeah. I just said
so you're just not crouching.
Yeah. Well, it just looks like fucking whack when you tried to like stealth and shit.
Yeah.
It's just like this like monstrous creature just like crawling around like on all 4s, but it's still like when crouched, it's still like taller than most of the other characters. So it's just like this giant human spider like crawling around and shit.
I love this Skyrim origin story. However, I do want to get Lucas Skyrim origin story too, and I have a few questions.
That's fair. That was a weird rant.
I loved it.
This age,
but it's interesting because
16 hours of my life. But yeah.
16 hours,
close,
dude.
to, yeah.
Who cares what size the character is?
Wait, what game's taken 16? Only 16 hours of your life? You think Skyrim?
No, no, for my character creator
for the past like 10 days.
yeah,
bruh. Holy,
dude, this game was made in 2011.
Okay, so that's the thing though, is like, Will, you were telling me like the reason why these proportions are so fucked up is because they made changes to the system in the 10th anniversary edition of Skyrim, which you also bought.
Well, no, the 10th.
It was free because you bought everything before that, right?
Yeah, well, the 10th anniversary edition comes out next month. It's like a free update for like all systems and stuff. So
it's the special edition that made these changes.
Yeah, like the remastered or
Remastered?
whatever for PS4.
Right.
But
so I own that.
Same.
And here's a brief Skyrim story. I've actually never played the Dawn Guard expansion, but I have played the Dragonborn expansion because
Why?
Well, here's why: is I never played it when I had it for the PS3. When the
That's fair.
PS4 and the remaster came out, I was like, now I'll finally play it for the first time. But I did the Dragonborn one first, and that was really good. But I had got all these mods because you could finally mod it on the PS4, and I had this huge house outside of Whiterun, and in the basement it had like 40 different mannequins.
Oh no!
And I was like, I'm
mannequin
going to
glitch.
get every single suit of armor and decorate my house. And I was like maybe 3 suits away. Like I just finished getting like ivory armor, like the ancient snow elf armor, basically. That's what the mod made it, ivory armor. I had to like hunt down like 20 mammoths to make it. It was fucked. Anyway, and then anytime I tried to go into my house to change out my equipment and stuff, my game would crash. And it got to a point where I had saved inside and I didn't have a previous save I could load. So I had to uninstall the mod. And then I tried to reinstall it and upload a previous save, and it would just not load my house. And I was looking at like, I don't know, maybe like too many hours, days maybe, of being like, I just tried to do this and now it's gone. Like my whole house was off the map because the mod was installed. Like basically everything I'd been working on in the game was just like, and I was like, man, fuck this. So I haven't played the game since.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a few years ago.
As a side note, like because for like the Hearthfire DLC, like the one that you can build the houses, the 3 houses, I built like all 3, but like each one served a purpose. So like I had so like the one in Winterhold was like my wizarding tower. So like it just looked like Jabba's hut, like or Jabba's palace. Like it had like the 3 towers around it, and like it was just like stocked with like every alchemical else like ingredient and like every spell book that I could find. And then like I had another one that was like strictly for like armor and weapons. And then the other
finest weapons and armor.
Yeah, and then I had like my family and like all of like my guards living in another one. And then like but like my primary house was like Breeze Home and Winter Home, like in how do you call it? The one in the middle, Whiterun.
Windhelm.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whiterun. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
What am I talking about? Idiot.
So yeah, that was how I played Skyrim.
Oh yeah, I don't even like the Breeze Home. That's like one of my least favorite houses. I also own the remastered version. And just like Matt, I never played the Dawn Guard because actually, so I got to the mission to like I accidentally stumbled upon like with the first vampire mission. And I met like that vampire lady, and she was like, come to this island and help us or whatever she says. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I had started I'd been attacked by the like cult members and being like, go to Souls Time. So I was like, I'm going to save Dawn Guard. I'm going to do the Souls Time stuff. And I did all that stuff. And then like, I don't know, like 6 months later, I just forgot about Dawn Guard. I kept saving it. I've never played it. I will play it though. Honestly, I'm definitely going to be playing it after this. Like,
yeah.
Definitely playing Skyrim after this.
Okay, let's go back all the way to our first ever playthroughs though.
Okay.
I like Will got it for Christmas. I escaped Helgen. That was like one of the wildest intros to a game ever. I was like blown away. And then anytime I tried to make it to Whiterun, I got attacked by wolves and got killed. And I had to lower the difficulty to like normal because I think I had it on hard because my buddy was over and he was like, oh, you got to play on hard mode or else it's not fun, which is totally wrong. But yeah, anyways, so I got killed by wolves like 3 or 4 times in a row. I turned the game off and I waited like a week to play it again. Then, from there, just fell in love with it. Played through. My first character was a red guard. Not, I snuck around, but I also carried a 2-handed sword and cast spells. Just very much like, baby's first Skyrim character. Yeah, absolutely love the game. There's moments like this one behind me in Blackreach that's just like, wow, I can't believe how big this map is. This is incredible. And you know, I think Skyrim to me is very much of that story of you either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
I became
in that.
one.
But I think I don't know if that paints an accurate picture of what Skyrim is, because now Skyrim has continued its legacy as this highly modded game and community, you know, based and served sort of thing where people are continuously like modding it and making the game better than it ever was. But then we still get these like vanilla Skyrim releases for every system. And it's like, you know, if you're on console, you still can't really get the mods. It's basically like, you know, PC master race kind of stuff. But I do think it's interesting that Skyrim still has this life as, you know, has gotten a lot of people, like there's people who have modded Skyrim for years who now work for Bethesda because their mods became so highly advanced. Anyways, Luca, what was your first playthrough like?
I didn't get a day of release, but I got it maybe like a couple of weeks after it came out, still in November, I think.
Yeah.
For me, Skyrim was like so hyped. Like I saw so many videos about it. I was like always watching trailers, and like people made like animated videos about how they're never going to leave Skyrim and stuff. And to me, Skyrim not only lived up to the hype, but like flew by it. Like it just surpassed all the hype. I loved it so much. I still remember like the first time I saw the loading screen, even just like the music, I was like, oh yes, like this is already worth the $70 that games cost back then, or 60 bucks, I think. My first playthrough, so I am as you know, Matthew, wizard over everything, best class in everything, always magic.
It's certainly an opinion.
I'm a mage purist, as you know. So I wanted my first playthrough to be a magic user, and being the naive child I was, I read through all the descriptions like I'm going to be a high elf, and then I found out what a bunch of assholes high elves are.
Yeah.
So I was a high elf on
they?
my first playthrough. Yeah, Will sympathizes with the Eldmeri. So yeah, I was a high elf on my first playthrough. I tried to be a mage. It did not go well. Like magic was not easy for like the early parts of the game.
Yeah.
But my first, like the first quest I even did was the Golden Claw quest, where you go to Bleak Falls Barrow.
What's up, Arville? Piece of shit. Stealing from the little guy. Okay.
Oh, Arville. Yeah. So I played my very first playthrough was I didn't actually finish that playthrough, like the high mage. I restarted it and I played a Nord warrior. Maybe like, I don't know how far I got into the game. I don't think I'd even discovered like most of the cities yet. And I was like, I don't like the high elf look.
Yeah.
So I made a Nord, and I just played like a sword and shield until I found Winterhold and the college. And then I was like, that's when I dove into the magic.
Oh.
There is one thing though that I hate about the Skyrim magic system, and that's master level destruction spells take way too long to cast. Like the master level fire spell, it's like all of them, they just take forever. Like it's just such a long, like you get hit once, it's like okay, time to restart. Like, and then you have to like cast your magic. But since buying the remaster, I've only played one character, and it's a dark elf.
Oh wow.
And I always make the same looking character. It's like, the beard with the knot.
Yeah.
I make the beard with the knot, then like either like the mohawk or like the hair that's like up, so it's like long on both sides.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And I make him like super evil looking, like the darkest possible like shade of eyes, and like even like the red rims and like the red around the eyes, and just make him look super evil. I always wear a hood, but I'm not a bad person in Skyrim. Like I actually play a pretty like lawful good. Like I don't schmurder people too often. I love Skyrim. Like Skyrim's probably the game I put the most hours into of all video games, and it would definitely rank in my top 3 favorite games of all time. Like if it's not just my favorite outright, because every single time you restart the game, or at least for me, it's been like that. Like I find a new quest that I never did, or I find a new place that I've never been to. And it's like, it's so dense, and it's like the graphics aren't great, but they're so nostalgic at the same time. Like I love Skyrim. I love everything about it except for the way they've been selling it for like the past 10 years on every single possible console. But
Yeah.
what a great game. Like, I can't wait to play it after this. Like I'm literally gonna start the Dawn Guard as soon as we finish.
Yeah.
I often watch mod videos on YouTube and just see like what other people's Skyrim looks like. And then they go, man, I love Skyrim. They go to boot mine up and it's like, I don't want this.
And see, I didn't even build the houses. Like to me, building the house, like I built the one next to Falkreath.
Yeah.
But like it's tedious.
Lakeview.
Yeah, Lakeview. Like I think I started the one. Do you get one next to Winterhold?
Yes.
Yeah.
The pale.
Yeah. I think I started that one. Like I completely built the Lakeview house. Honestly, I didn't even know about, like, I remember when I didn't even know about that DLC. Like I knew about the Dragonborn DLC and the Dawn Guard, but it didn't, like, I saw that it was listed there on the game, but I didn't know what it was. And then it was like a surprise to me. Like I talked to the Jarl of Falkreath, and he's like, oh, we have a nice property you can buy. And I was like, oh, what? You can buy land? Like, cool. But I found it tedious, like having to mine all the clay and the
Iron fittings.
Yeah, like building iron fittings and stuff, like so tedious. And honestly, I love the mods because the first thing I would always do in a Skyrim game was make iron daggers until my smithing is like level 100. Like,
Yeah.
So I can make all the armor I wanted.
Yeah.
So now I can just skip that with the mods. And my personal favorite mod is just the katanas. I don't know if you guys have downloaded that one.
Oh,
It's just the shape of the sword. It's just so cool. I just love like the golden katana, or there's like a jade green katana. And I just live my samurai dreams, like walking around. And I played in third person, and then because it's just so cool. I love just having like a katana on my waist. And my favorite armor, I don't know about you guys, but the blades armor, I think, is my favorite armor in the game.
Mm-hmm. I would say, like, I had this written down to ask, but I think my favorite armor is a tie between glass armor and the Nightingale armor.
Okay, yeah.
Those, and like even like the cosplay community, like there are so many Nightingale and glass armor sets. Super cool, yeah.
The glass, there's no light and heavy for glass, right?
Glass is just light.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is one of the things I disliked about Skyrim, because they got rid of medium armors. And then and
Do
so
you
like,
really need medium armor?
oh, you do. Right about it. One of the things that you mentioned earlier about like master level spells taking forever. That's what I disliked about Skyrim. It was that, like, compared to, so like in Oblivion, you get like magic was just like better. Way more spells. You could actually make your own spells as well, which they like kind of sort of tried to bring in with the Dragonborn DLC, because you can make like the staff creator, but you could like do that in Oblivion, because like it was a part of like the Mages Guild quest line. And like, yeah, so like with like spells, because you had either like touching spells like close up, or you could like have like ranged spells, whereas in Skyrim it's all ranged, which I'm not like the biggest fan of, because like you could still perform spells in Oblivion using two-handed weapons like with ease. So like, let's say if you want to, like, I made like one spell where it did like an absurd amount of damage, like you just like touch someone, they just explode. And like, yeah, you could like, yeah, just do that with when you're like swinging around like a hammer or something like that. So yeah, I don't know, like that's the other thing. I think like all like the sides like guild quest lines I've found in Oblivion to be far more superior.
See, I've never played. Oh, there's one in Skyrim that you think is better?
One moment.
So
like the Dark Brother in Oblivion, like way better storyline, like really, really good. There's like one quest actually in Oblivion where it's like you go into like a manor, because there's like this, like it's kind of like a reality show like house game. It's like Big Brother, but like you have to kill a bunch of people. So like it's kind of fun because like you have to do it in a manner in which nobody sees. So it was kind of funny because like there's a little bit more humor and stuff involved, which is kind of weird to say when you're killing a house full of people. But no, like the one thing I absolutely love about Skyrim, it's my all-time favorite moment. I do it through with every single playthrough is the end of the Dark Brotherhood questline in Skyrim when you have to kill the real Emperor, Titus Mead II. Because like whenever you kill the Emperor, you always get like the special like killing finisher animation.
Yeah.
And I always did the unarmed one. So like you go up behind him, you fucking suplex him into oblivion.
Okay. The first time I ever completed that quest line, I don't know what happened, but the animation didn't work out. Like
no,
the Emperor was standing here and my guy was here and just like stabbed the air.
Oh no.
And then he went, ugh, and died. And I was like, oh man, that's so whack.
Yeah, like no matter what playthrough, no matter like what class or role playing or like whatever character, I always get to that point and I'm just like I'm walking like into his ship cabin. I'm like, it's time. And I'm like and like he'll be like, I guess it's time for me to go and prepare. I'm like, yeah, buddy, let's go.
The champ is here. Your wrestling music starts playing.
And I was like and I like just like go up behind him and just like grip him by the waist and just like annihilate him. I think I've done it with on like every single playthrough.
John Cena. Holy fuck.
Yeah. So that was probably my favorite moment.
Yeah, I love that conversation between the like he doesn't resist at all.
Yeah.
Like it's so often in Skyrim you confront somebody and then they go, no, don't kill me, and try to run away. And it's like, oh man.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Like for example, in Oblivion, there was like a fleshed out like unarmed class, like a monk class that you could do.
Oh wow.
And like it was like kind of cool because like Oblivion's like super dated, but it would like unlock like special animations so you could like jab somebody with like 2 fingers and they would just like be paralyzed and stuff.
Damn.
So like that's one of the things that I think Skyrim missed out on was all the different like unique classes and stuff. But I mean,
that's kind of a trend though in like modern gaming. Like it just like I know in the Far Cry series, like that's like a huge criticism where like Far Cry 2 had so many more features than like Far Cry 5. It's like
right.
8 years removed. I've never played Oblivion, Matt. I think you haven't either.
I haven't either. Like I've only played like the intro maybe once or twice. And like all those things Will's mentioning are cool. Like, but it makes sense now retrospectively looking back and seeing why some of those elements may have been removed and like why some people were upset by that. 100%. Like if I had played Oblivion and then some of those elements are missing, sort of tougher to get into. But I think there's no way Skyrim would be as successful as it is if it had that sort of higher barrier for entry.
Yeah.
Whereas I think like even when you come out of the cave in Helgen and you get to the apprentice stones, I think they're called, like just that choice of like magic, sneak, or
like the rogue stone, the warrior stone, or the mage stone.
Exactly. Yeah, just like very simplified, depending on which way you go with magic, or if you want to, have an axe or have 2 swords or whatever the case is. But like, I don't know, that just sort of streamlined Skyrim. And then again, Skyrim sort of become something that's more, not funded, but has most of its input from the community now with things like mods. And again, those modders becoming game designers. It's like, now I feel like we might get into, because a lot of the mods bring in more role play elements to Skyrim. And so I'm interested to see what, Elder Scrolls 6 might look like, taking into consideration how successful Skyrim was. But it's been so long since Skyrim came out. You got to wonder if they'll have, the reputation to get that new or get the same draw that they had, because so many people have played Skyrim. And I remember like it being one of those games where it's like wow, kids are making these jokes. Like, kids are fusro dying each other, and like so are like adults. It was a very like, cross generation type of thing. And I wonder if like because it's taken so long for Elder Scrolls 6, if they've maybe missed the window a little bit.
I mean, I think they haven't, just because of how successful and massive Skyrim is. Like, it dominates the fantasy RPG gaming. Like, I can't think of like any game that really takes that market share, like,
yeah.
There's like The Witcher, there's Dragon Age, but like they all hit different. Like,
and I think that's the thing too, is those games have so many RPG aspects to them that like they sort of alienate a specific type of gamer.
Yeah,
it's just sort of like casual. Where
totally.
Skyrim is,
because like
exactly
when I started, I bought The Witcher 3 when I got my PS4, and like that game came out with the PS4. And when I opened the menu for the first time and saw like there's like your sword abilities, then there's like your magic abilities, and there's like mutagens you can like do, and I was like, I don't like, there's so many, every time like everything single menu I open, it's like, here's an explanation for this menu, you click through, it's like, I'm not reading all this. It's such like a learning curve to get into it. Not really the same for Dragon Age, but like Skyrim is so easily accessible. And like Will's totally right with like what he's saying, whatever race you choose literally does not matter. Like, it will not affect, you can be a Nord mage just as powerful as a high elf mage. Like, it does not matter. Like, I think you get, like, instead of, if you start as a high elf, instead of starting with 100 mana, you start with 150. Like,
Yeah,
like that can be 5 levels in, like you can equalize that as a Nord. But like that's what makes it so broadly accessible, which made it so successful. And then like Elder Scrolls 6 will have, I mean, it'll be they'll have to do a lot to like please the community, especially considering how much of a like garbage fire Fallout 76 was.
Yeah.
Made by the same company.
Yeah, because Bethesda's sort of much like maligned almost. Like Skyrim itself has become a meme in that, like, oh, it's coming out for the Nokia.
Yeah.
But like Bethesda has had so many duds, or so many, not false, but like things they've promised that never came to be.
Mm-hmm.
Even Elder Scrolls Online didn't really meet people's expectations, and it's still a beautiful game. It just works. Yeah, that. So I'm with Fallout. All those sort of things have sort of banked up to a point now where Bethesda's sort of, a little bit of a laughing stock. So I hope for their sake, and because I want to enjoy Elder Scrolls 6, I hope it doesn't end up being one of those things.
Yeah, same. But it's interesting everything Will's saying about Oblivion versus Skyrim. I never played Oblivion or Morrowind, but I did play Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3. And then when Fallout 4 came out, I had a lot of the same complaints, being like, okay, well, you took out a bunch of features that were in Fallout 3 that now in Fallout 4 we don't have. And it's like, yes, you made like a super dense and interesting game, but like you took away all these dialogue options, which was like the best part of Fallout New Vegas, was like the fact that you can get through the whole game without ever firing a bullet, because like you can talk your way through every situation.
Right.
Whereas like in Fallout 4, they took that away entirely, pretty much, where like you didn't even know. It was like one of those dialogue options, like pick like one of 4 options, and it's like angry, sad, happy, like frustrated, and then like you never know what your character is going to say, like that kind of dialogue. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, it was like you see the whole line your character is going to say and the percentage of your speech skill, which could make it work. And it's like, you already had these features, why take them away and give this less? So I think if I'd played Oblivion, I might have the same complaints about Skyrim. I mean, obviously us being fantasy nerds, we don't have that like barrier to entry. Like the more complex it is, like we'll learn it and like nerd out and love it. So like that's not a barrier for us. So I would be super disappointed if in in Elder Scrolls 6 they like cut back even more. But I have a feeling that they will come through, because
they have to.
I mean, they do. They'll go bankrupt.
or worse.
And it'll be interesting because, well, they just got bought by Microsoft.
Yeah.
For one. And number two, their brand new IP is coming out in like a couple of months, like Starfield. Like their sci-fi IP is coming out very soon.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I like definitely expectations are
very
high. Very high, especially for like
high.
lore wise, because like it's been like hours talking about it, but like kind of like what like one of the interpretations, especially like mine, and like this is the one that I go with, is that like by the time we get to Skyrim, like the world is like kind of dying, like as it is in like nowhere near as bad as like Dark Souls, like where the world is like empty, but like it's kind of like going towards that. And like yeah, and like that's one thing I disliked about Skyrim, is like they didn't do that much to like elaborate like on a lot of the lore stuff, because like a lot of the books and stuff that are in Skyrim like in game are like found in like previous games. Like they didn't add as much, but they kind of like remedied that a bit by like adding more to like Elder Scrolls Online, which like I've never played just because I've never had an interest in it, but like I've spent that like way too much time on like weird Elder Scrolls forums and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but,
I've spent a lot of hours listening to Elder Scrolls lore on YouTube. It's all very interesting. But it's one of those games, like today I even watched a video on Keg Renzel and what the implications of it may be, and how it ties back to Dwarven Society and Kagranok. And the translations of Keg Renzel could mean the city of music or Kagranok City. Like it's very interesting, but it's one of those games, I think, like Zelda, that gives you like very little. Elder Scrolls gives you a lot, but Skyrim itself gives you very little. And so people have made careers out of speculating what, game elements could mean, whether they're correct or not. But we've had a decade of that now. And I think that's awesome, right? Like there's literally people just do that all day. And I think that's worth something, right? If the lore of your game has caused like so much interest that people are like dedicating their lives to it. You can find like thousands of hours of content on Skyrim on, the internet, and we're adding to that now. But I don't know, that's got to mean something.
Yeah. Which like, again, like I kind of wish like the in-game like Skyrim, even vanilla Skyrim, like just if they had more of that stuff, and like, or maybe made it a little bit more like prevalent and stuff, as opposed to like, because I mean Skyrim's like very popular, very accessible, so like most people probably just don't read the in-game books and stuff like that because there's not really a point to. So like whereas like even like Oblivion was kind of where they started to go down a little bit. I mean, Morrowind is definitely like the crowning achievement, I think, for like fantasy lore games. But
have you played The Witcher 3?
Yeah, but Morrowind kind of like set everything up. So, and like in terms of like how like the world is like created and all that stuff. And yeah, I don't know. Skyrim to me was like a little bit like when I started to get like super into it, like I was like, fuck, like why couldn't this be a little bit better?
Well, I've literally never like there's parts of Skyrim, like for instance, the combat system is super dated now.
Yeah.
And a lot of the modders, the things that they do is like fix the immersion of the game, right? Because there's a lot of game developer aspects of the game that, you duck behind a rock and the guy's like, oh, must have been the wind or whatever. I must be hearing something. It's like, it kind of breaks the immersion.
Which is like why my giant Nord is just like crouching, but like the size of a bear, and it's just like, oh, must have been the wind.
But I actually credit Skyrim as being like one of the main reasons why I started playing tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, is because like Skyrim gives you such like a great first taste of what a world like this could be, but then you get sort of stuck at the wall that is like game design, right? You can only program NPCs to have so much dialogue before it's like you get to a point where they're repeating themselves all the time. And playing D&D is that same thing, right? Like if I, stay and hang around in this village in Skyrim for a week, no one's dialogue changes towards me. But if I do that in D&D, I can have a new conversation with this person every time I talk to them. So it's sort of like, it's you're still playing a game. There's still that aspect to it. There's still like the adventure of it, but there's also like, the things I do actually change. It's not just like a change in dialogue option. It's like the variables I bring to the world actually have an effect. But I mean, like, I don't know if I would long for that feeling if it weren't for Skyrim sort of proving as like a little bit of a barrier for that. So I'm at least thankful in that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like Skyrim, what it succeeds in is like the feeling of playing it was so exciting and fun. And I think, Will, you could speak to this. I've heard that like Oblivion has a bit of an empty map. Like it's a very big map, but there's like not as many. Yeah, exactly. Like just looking at it, like it doesn't seem like there's much in it, whereas Skyrim, any direction you go in, like in real time, if you walk like 2 minutes in real like lifetime, you'll run into a few things. Like, yeah, you'll definitely hit something like a new map marker or like a random event. You'll get attacked. Like it's not like the densest map you've ever played, but like the combination of the atmosphere of it, the look of the game, like the environment's very pretty. The music is amazing.
Yeah.
Like,
yes. Yeah. We just haven't even touched on the music.
The feeling of being in the world is like so fantasy that it just scratches that itch so perfectly to me. Like maybe because we were young when it came out, like we were still in high school. So like it left that imprint, but like I don't know of any game that's like stayed with me that much with just like those small moments. Like I love walking around Skyrim. Like I barely ever fast travel in it unless I'm going across the entire map. Like I'll rather walk from Whiterun to Solitude than to like just fast travel. Like I just love the experience of being in the game.
I remember when I was younger and used to partake in some at the time illegal substances which are no longer illegal.
You.
I used to just ingest those substances and then just walk around Skyrim and try to find new things and then go into a dungeon and get instant anxiety, but like in a very good way. It just, I was in it kind of thing. And you're very much unless you have a follower with you, you're very much like on your own in Skyrim. Mm-hmm. So really like, it really does, like you're saying, Luca, have that sense of like adventure. Like when you're exploring Skyrim, it feels like you're exploring something. And like you said, like the map is so highly populated. If you're not running into like a dwarven ruin, you're running into a bear or like a cave troll. And in that cave troll's lair, you might find like not a cave troll, sorry, like a frost troll. You might find somebody's old journal that says like, oh, I came here looking for blah, blah, blah. And then there's like a soul gem or something. Mm-hmm. But you get these sort of bits of narrative that are told through you exploring, opposed to just like, here's a book that you can read that has lore bits. For me, like I usually skip those books because I'm like, there's somebody on YouTube who's already taken this book and put some pictures I could look at, So like, I'll just, if I want to hear about Elder Scrolls lore, I'll just listen to somebody tell me it. Whereas like, I don't want to spend my time gaming, reading lore. Like it's, yeah, not everyone's like you,
He's a psychopath.
But yeah, no, I think I've often said on this show, like The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was very much like that cultural touchstone for a lot of people I know in their like introduction to fantasy. And then after that, it was The Lord of the Rings, really sort of opened the door for that. But I think Skyrim is the next one. Like if it's Zelda, Lord of the Rings, then it's Skyrim, and then for me anyways, then Game of Thrones. But Game of Thrones and Skyrim sort of like tandem with each other because there was the show you could watch and get all that narrative. And then, as close as there is, interactive way to be a part of the show as well. It's very much different lore, all that. But, a lot of the same themes and even like the Draugr resembling the Night Walkers and stuff like that. because I remember I was trying to pitch somebody to play Skyrim. It was like, yeah, it's like if you could play Game of Thrones. But yeah, I don't know. I just like Skyrim for me now, even though it's memed itself by releasing on every single platform, it's still that like I still love the experience. Like I might not want to pick up Skyrim and sit through that intro again, but someone who's doing it for the first time, I think will still have that feeling. Like I don't think the game dates itself with time. I think it dates itself with experience. If you've played it through, then the combat's going to feel a little bit stale. And if you've played newer games, maybe. But I think if someone's like picking up, like Zelda hasn't changed the controls really in 40 years. So I think it's the same type of thing. I think anyone who's picking up Skyrim for the first time would still absolutely fall in love with it. And how could you not? I mean,
yeah, his strength isn't in like any one thing really. Like it's not the gameplay or the story or like it, like everything is good, and then like the experience is great. Like it's fantastic, and that's what makes it so like memorable. Like it's so easy to go back to too. Like it's so replayable, and again, it's just the feeling. Like I always honestly feel like very lonely playing it. Like walking around the world by yourself, like even the companions you have. Like I never play with a companion, but like just like walking around the world, it feels really lonely. And like the fact that you're not playing like a real character, like for example in The Witcher, you're Geralt of Rivia, but like in Skyrim, you're just like this anonymous. Like you're the Dragonborn. You can be whatever race you are, and it's like, and since it's first person, you don't really see yourself. I mean, you can play third person, but like usually, I think most people play first person. So like it just the experience of Skyrim is just so good, and like that's what Elder Scrolls 6 needs to live up to. Like I think the experience, like no individual gameplay mechanic is like what makes Skyrim so good. It's the whole thing put together is what makes it so memorable.
Lonely Skyrim, just picturing me 2018 sitting in my apartment in the lawn chair, no Wi-Fi.
Do you guys have a favorite quest line from or favorite quest from Skyrim?
I think the end, like when you get the Sovngarde and like the Sovngarde music plays, which is like the only time it ever plays,
and you get to see all the people you've been hearing about in basically like Valhalla.
Yeah,
yeah,
which is just a pocket in oblivion. Yeah,
really,
yeah,
lore.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
I love the quest line where you get it's the one where you go drinking in Whiterun, and then like you have to go on the like you get
Sanguine's Rose. Yeah,
Sanguine's Rose, you get it.
Good boy, Eric.
I also love the Wabbajack quest line where you're like in the dude's dreams.
Daedric Prince stuff. Yeah.
Find me Pelagius's hip bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine was getting to Blackreach because it was just so alien and didn't expect to find it, and then it's just right below this place you've already been trudging through. I think that's part of the main quest line, because you go down there to find the codex thing that'll get you to read the Elder Scroll or whatever. I can't really remember, but I remember just discovering this place and being fucking scared because I was like a little too weak on my first playthrough to be there, and there was like what are those things called? Chorus, Will?
Yeah.
Yep.
Chorus and Falmer and trolls and giants, and then a dragon was in the lamp, and like, oh man.
Yeah, I love Blackreach. Like it's super cool. But I hate like every time I like go into a Daedric or a Dwarven ruin and it turns into like Falmer tunnels, I'm like, oh my god, it's happening. Yeah. Like I'm going back to Blackreach. I'm going to see these stupid chorus everywhere. Like I don't. Yeah. And like the flying ones too. I forget what they're called. Like
yeah.
I'm just like, oh my god, these guys again. Like I'm not here for this.
They scare the fuck out of me, the chorus, man.
Yeah, and the feeling of like claustrophobia being like in those tunnels, like it's real. Like it's uncomfortable. I get the same feeling honestly in vaults in Fallout, but like it's not like Skyrim. Like the barrows they're creepy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And just when you're just walking around the barrow and you just hear, yeah. It's like fuck. Like, oh man, you gotta find out which skeleton's waking up.
Yep. I mean, you can see, like, I love shooting them. Just like, I'm always an archer. Like, I play archer more than anything else. Really, I just love shooting arrows.
Oh, that's such a satisfying feeling. When you just shoot the guy who's laying down and it's just like, you're like, I knew it.
Because they're different. They look different.
Yeah, they're more like laid out, and they look like a character model, whereas the other ones look like
shriveled
scenery.
skeletons.
Yeah. There's so many good quests in the game. Now I'm just like running through.
I'm trying to remember like a great quest. Like, I know, I love that. Like when you go drinking with the Daedric Prince.
Yeah, it's like the Hangover in Skyrim. Yeah,
that's a great one. There's a couple good ones in Soul's Time.
Yeah. Soul's Time is super interesting too, because that one felt like way more cinematic.
Yeah.
Like with Mirak and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Also, just like the whole Thieves Guild, I thought was interesting. I really love Carlia. Really cool character. You get snaked by, what's that guy's name? Delvin Mallory or something. Well, who's the guy who snakes you in the Thieves Guild?
There's your boy Mallory.
Nice.
Yeah,
no, I love the Thieves Guild.
Wait, I didn't ask, what's your guys' favorite city in Skyrim?
I'd probably say Markarth, just because it's the Dwarven ruins.
I think Windhelm.
Oh, I hate Windhelm.
Yeah, that's fair.
Segregated and fucking. It's
Man,
just
I go to Windhelm as a dark elf and I just get furious. Like,
yeah.
These guys, like, my people.
It's the one with the murder mystery too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
that's actually a pretty fun quest. I like that quest line.
Yeah.
Windhelm's cool. I like the way it looks, but it's not my favorite city.
Like, I wouldn't want to live in Windhelm.
No.
The East Empire Trading Company mission where you get to fight all the pirates.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's
like
cool.
you leave Skyrim. Yeah.
I think I agree with you, Matt. Though Markarth might be my favorite city. It's like the elevation of it. How there's like so many like different pathways you can go, and there's like the views. And I like the Markarth house might be my favorite.
Yeah, I was about to say. Yeah, I used to put my dwarven
houses.
armor set in the Markarth house.
I just like how it's like up there. Like, I don't like, man, fucking Nazim, and I hate this guy. Every time you see him, he's like, "Oh, I've ever been to the Wind District." Ah, probably not.
Yeah.
Like,
did you ever make your way up to the Cloud District?
Yeah, the Cloud District.
What am I talking about? Of course you don't.
And then your house isn't even, and he's right. Your house is like down there in the peasant district next to
the War Maiden.
Nazim. I hate that. I kill him almost every time I see him.
Doesn't he ask you to go get a sword or something?
Yeah.
No, it was a different guy.
Oh, that wasn't him. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, the family sword.
Yeah, fuck Nazim.
Nazim. Seriously, like, least favorite character.
I think Markarth, but there's also like the Forsworn, which is another real cool story. Which also brings up that the same thing I was talking about, like not being able to converse with people after their quest line. Like, you go into that one cave where the Forsworn are after you've done that quest, and they just don't talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no one in there talks to you. It's like, yeah, I kind of fucking liberated your king and gave you guys a fighting chance, and no one says shit to me. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah, fuck the Forsworn.
Last thing, do you guys have a favorite favorite Skyrim NPC and a favorite Skyrim location?
Favorite NPC? Yo, I love what's his name? The Khajiit you find randomly around is like Maik.
Oh, Maik the Liar.
Yeah, he's found he's in Oblivion.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Maik. He's my favorite NPC, probably.
Yeah, I think he might be in Morrowind as well. Not too sure. He's kind of like an Easter egg character.
I wonder if just like one of the game developers knew a guy with that name and was like, "Fuck you, man."
Yeah. I just love talking to him, and once you like talk to him a couple of times, you're like, "Oh, Mike is done talking." You're like, all right, man. Favorite location though? That's tough. It might be the throat of the world, just like being up on the mountain. I love seeing the whole map. It looks so cool.
Yeah, and if you do the ethereal shout, you can jump off.
The one where you don't take any damage.
Yeah, where you just turn into a ghost. And you can if you have it maxed out, you can jump like off the top and just like get down to the bottom within like 2 jumps.
Right, it lasts long enough.
Yeah.
No, I think that might be my favorite. No, that's tough. You guys can go. I'll think about it some more.
Yeah, I think if it's not Blackreach for me, it's probably Keg Renzel, which I was talking about before. Just because like there's no quest that takes you there. You just have to sort of come across it, and it has unique elements that you don't find anywhere else in the game with like the dwarven AI thing, and then you fall for thousands of feet. It's just so random, and there's no sort of like you don't find anything in there. And there's weird like giant mammoth bones in there. People were speculating are supposed to resemble the snow whales, which used to be around in Skyrim. But they had a character model for snow whales. It's the bridge to so it's weird that they didn't use those. So I don't know. But yeah, that's probably my favorite location. There's also this one that looks like the Dawnbreaker shield, that sort of glass shield. It's just like this random mountain in the southwest. And like there's no quest that takes you there either. It's just like this weird shrine, and there's no items there. So there's just things when I was just like exploring. I was like, cool.
Actually, I think my favorite place might be on the way to Riften. If you go south of the mountain, I don't know if you guys have ever gotten there. There's like up this one little path, there's like a shack where there's like a hunter and his son living or something, and like
oh yeah,
I think there's a quest or anything. You just like talk to them. They might send you on like a fetch quest. I did like once or twice, but just like I love that area of the map, like the southeast on the way to Rift, and it's always like fall colors and like
that's what I was talking about.
There's actually a dragon mask you can find there, like a dragon priest dungeon thing. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think I've done the quest line where like you find all the masks, but like I've played this game so many times.
Ooh, even Labyrinthian, like when you put on the wind mask and you
is so cool.
You change it, like you go back in time. That's so sick. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that like that area of the map might be my favorite. Also because that's like the least visited place I've ever gone to. Like I've probably spent the least amount of time in the Riften area.
Yeah, same. Even that area just like north of Riften, I think.
Yeah.
It's all like I don't know what you would call that terrain, but
it's a kind of, is it the volcanic kind of?
Yeah, it's like there's geysers everywhere. Yeah. That place is cool. I hate when I fight a dragon there because then I'll fall into like these pools and you get like burning damage. What about you, Will?
Oh, Jinx.
I have to say probably Throne of the World, I think, is my favorites. Like going up, climbing the 7,000 steps. Dude, the first time you do it and you encounter the frost troll, he just fucks you up every single time.
I remember what's her name? I'm sworn to carry your burdens, that girl. Your house Carl.
Lydia?
Yeah.
Lydia.
She died every time I tried to take on that frost troll. And then on my first playthrough, I just said, well, she's dead. And then she showed up later on.
Yeah.
Favorite NPC, Will?
I don't think I really have one, to be honest. I don't know, like maybe some of the Daedric princes, like Sheogorath was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's
There's also the character from Oblivion.
Yeah, with his two-face like suit.
Yeah,
I like Buddy Ulfrith Warbear is probably my favorite just because I quote him all the time.
Yeah.
So unnecessarily
Or Bellathor.
stoic.
If I had a sister, I'd sell her too.
The finest weapons and armor.
Yeah.
Looking to protect yourself or deal some damage. It's just like, but yeah. You guys want to add anything else to our discussion about Skyrim?
No, I think we covered pretty much everything until we talk about it tomorrow and be like, yo, we forgot to talk about this. So
Yeah.
episode 2 coming at some point, probably.
Oh yeah, we didn't mention music. The music of Skyrim is fantastic. Fun fact, in 2019, I believe, my most played album was the Skyrim soundtrack because I was playing so much D&D and playing the music from Skyrim. Yeah. So I remember when everyone was posting their like Spotify raps or whatever, I was like, hey, here's mine. And it was like Skyrim, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. Like, and then like maybe like Drake or something. So embarrassing.
Why is that embarrassing? That's literally what I listen to.
Yeah. It's because not even running D&D. He's just listening to Skyrim. Yeah. No, but it was like 19 hours played of Skyrim, or like it's probably more than that. I can't remember what it was, but it was substantial. Yeah. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, there's a lot of content you can find on our channel. We have quite a backlog at this point. We release an episode every Tuesday and Friday. So you can find, a book review, an interview I do with somebody talking about something super nerdy and specific like Skyrim, or you can find us playing D&D every Friday. And then every Tuesday we do a show like this where the three of us shoot the shit about something fantasy or sci-fi related. Yeah, look out for all the things I was mentioning earlier. Pokemon, a couple weeks ago, we got D&D, we got Walking Dead coming up, we got Ninth House review. So yeah, as always, I'm Matt.
I'm Luca.
And I'm Will. We
are the Lords of Lore. Looking Lord yourself, or oh god.
Should have written that down before.
Yeah, no, I didn't even, I thought of it just then.